Good morning. It's November 24, 2023. It's a Friday and it's overcast, cloudy here in Capitolio, Pasig. I do hope things are better in your area, although when it's cloudy, it tends to get cooler. But be aware, you have to consider pollution in Metro Manila. When it's cloudy, the incidence of coughs and complications in the lung can rise. Okay, especially if you have COPD. That's just a health warning for all of you there. And today we are going to have an interesting conversation, especially if you are a community leader, if you are a parent, if you're a teacher, etc., or if your world revolves around children, you have to pay attention to the conversation because we're going to talk about nutrition, malnutrition for children. And I was shocked to read data where some children don't reach their fifth birthday because of malnutrition, and that happens to be in the Philippines. So we're going to talk about that to two of our guests, and we will discuss the partnership of the United Nations regarding malnutrition. Okay, but before that, let's go to our daily starter. And before that, allow me to say thank you. I must never forget to say thank you and express gratitude to all of you who are Cignal TV subscribers, to all of you who watch us via Facebook and on YouTube and on the Cignal Play app. And of course, maraming salamat po, Sir Marco Borlongan of PLDT, for your home fiber optic internet that always supports us when we have concerns. Okay, so our daily starter for today comes from my favorite evangelist, the late Billy Graham. It was shared to me by our pastor friend, Robert Hearn in San Diego. And it goes, what is the use of being famous on earth when heaven doesn't know your name? And that's very important to consider. What is the use of being famous on earth when heaven doesn't know your name? A lot of you may be popular, even rich, even affluent, but if you are not known in heaven, then the question is why? I was telling my friend the other day, it's not about how much wealth you have, but how you use the wealth and for whom. If you are not a blessing to the nation, if you are not a blessing to people in need, to those who cannot return anything to you, then chances are your name is not on the registry of heaven. So think about that. Okay, now let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. Today, November 24, 2023. And the headline is Remulla, or Secretary of Justice Crispin Remulla, to ask Palace if Philippines is rejoining ICC. Excuse me. Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla will seek clarification from Malacanang on whether the country wants to rejoin the International Criminal Court in line with resolutions filed at the House of Representatives urging the government to cooperate in the ICC probe on the drug war killings. Okay, so it's not as simple as opening our doors, and that is now going to get complicated. Anyway, at the top of the front page, 17 Pinoys held by Houthi rebels remain unharmed. Hindi naman daw po na sinaktan. According to the Department of Migrant Workers, their information is that the hostages, the Filipino hostages, and the rest of the crew remain unharmed. Big photo at the top of the front page, near the header, Marcos visits Tacloban, quake-hit Gensan, and presides over a cabinet meeting accompanied by Defense Secretary Gilbert Chodoro and Benhar Abalos of the DILG and officials of Tacloban City. Okay. Meanwhile, Andal Ampatuan Jr. gets 210 years for graft. Convicted murderer Andal Ampatuan Jr. has been sentenced to a total of up to 210 years in prison for graft charges over a 283.3 million fuel supply deal. Okay, the ruling coincided with the 14th anniversary of the Maguindanao massacre that left 58 people, including 32 journalists, dead. So, yun po, 210 years to those of you in government who think you can easily get away with graft and corruption. Let this be a reminder. Slow and far, justice still gets you. Meanwhile, big photo on the center of the Philippine Star, a Metro Rail Transit 7 train conducts tests along Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City yesterday. Traffic congestion is expected to ease when the 14 station railway system starts serving commuters from North Avenue in Quezon City to the city of San Jose del Monte in Bulacan by November 2025. Ay, two years pa pala. Okay. Meanwhile, survey, Philippines has highest e-shopping scam rate in Asia. Ay. Okay, the public must be more wary of online fraud as the country has been tagged as having the highest rate of online shopping scams among 11 economies surveyed in 2023. And below that, we have Okada Manila top executives toast to a wonderful holiday season at the property's Harmony of Lights Christmas tree lighting. Beside that, government to cancel Teves passport. Tagal na niyan. The Philippine government is in the process of canceling the passport of expelled Negros Oriental Congressman Arnie Teves Jr., who is wanted in the country for multiple murder. Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla said yesterday. My comment about ang tagal naman yan, well, in the past, similar people have been wanted for crimes, but the cancellation of passports were much faster. So here, apparently, it's just slower than ever. Last but not the least, Sobel de Ayala family recognized for championing Filipino arts and culture. That photo on your screen, excuse me, shows the family gathered from left, Monica Zobel de Ayala, Natasha Zobel de Ayala, Fernando Zobel de Ayala, Kit Zobel de Ayala, Ignacio Suarez de Puga, and Cristina Zobel de Ayala. Okay, so that's all the news we have on the front page of the Philippine Star. Do get your physical copy or subscribe online for the Philippine Star. And please read my columns Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and of course, the rest of the Philippine Star content. We'll go for a quick break, and when we return, we'll start our conversation regarding children, malnutrition, and the fact that it's so bad that so many kids will remain under the barangay 411 height restriction. In other words, they will be stunted. And to make matters worse, data reveals that some children don't even make it to 5 years old. We'll be right back here on Agenda.
"95 Filipino children die from malnutrition daily, according to the latest data from UNICEF. Aside from that, 27 out of 1,000 Filipino children do not reach their 5th birthday because of malnutrition. UNICEF adds that malnutrition causes a third of Filipino children to experience stunting or being short for their age. In efforts to provide proper nutrition to them, the Health Department and United Nations inked a deal to address malnutrition in the country. This collaboration aims to reduce stunting across the country through nutrition-specific and nutrition-sensitive interventions. How can the government further address and solve malnutrition in the country? Let's discuss this on today's agenda. Dr. Janette Garin is Iloilo 1st District's representative in the 19th Congress. She is also the Vice Chairperson of the House Committee on Health. Garin previously served as the Health Secretary of former President Noynoy Aquino from 2015 to 2016.
Congresswoman, welcome to the program Agenda. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Cito, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, I believe you were the right person to speak to because of this concern. I know that your heart is focused on children, and we'd like to know what your thoughts are regarding this partnership of the UNICEF or United UN with the DOH. Do these kind of partnerships really work, or is there a more serious, deeper problem, which is why we can't seem to put a stop to this malnutrition and permanently close Barangay 411?
It's a welcome development, Cito, but based on my experience, it's just one of the solutions. The biggest problem lies also in the capability of our people. If you look at the situation, we have a lot of teenage pregnant mothers or unwanted pregnancies whose problem in accepting the pregnancy is actually coupled with problems in giving proper nutrition to pregnant patients, because nutrition of children starts from conception. So it's actually from the womb up to 2 years old. Mm-hmm. Another problem is probably the lack of awareness among our constituents, among our people. Many of the parents do not take nutrition problems seriously. Nasa isip kasi nila yan, they will always think that when a child is already eating rice or going to daycare, that's the point of time where they have to be aggressive in terms of nutrition because the child is already going to school, which is actually a wrong concept. Mm-hmm. they also do not realize that, well, of course, another problem is the availability of safe water, because this has contributed a lot to many patients, even children, having diarrhea, which actually takes out the few nutrients that are in their body. Because in the rural areas, we still have families who would eat more of rice and then put a lot of salt or put a lot of yung toyo.
Soy sauce.
Yeah, soy sauce. So that becomes their viand. So it's a combination of the people's attitude that has to be honed to respond to this problem of stunting. But we also have the sense of urgency of some of the people in government, and we notice that there are a lot of agreements, trainings, seminars, but making that transcend to the people, making the impact of the program is a lot different. No, we have to have programs down the line wherein implementation will really be on a long-term basis, because malnutrition, stunting, and even infant and neonatal deaths needs a long-term solution.
You were former Secretary of Health. You're a congresswoman. You come from one of the most developed city provinces in the country, Iloilo. Now, one would think that because of all that, there would be a very strong push from Congress, especially the Committee on Health, regarding all of this. But listening to what you just narrated, I'm concerned with what you brought up regarding water. I for one, have a place in the province in Batangas, in Lipa, Batangas, and we discovered that the groundwater in our area has about 200 times the acceptable level of E. coli, which explained why our chickens were dying after 3 months. Now, if my chickens were getting sick and dying after 3 months, then it substantiates your point that the quality of groundwater also seriously threatens the health of children. But what is being done? I mean, you conduct hearings, investigations. Is there a program or an organization that actually goes around barangays and LGUs to test the groundwater?
It's not for free, and it's quite expensive. So testing only happens to those who would intend to entail into business using water resources. So that's, again, a major problem. If the government could have regular water testing using government authorities, government facilities, then that would be good, because it will be a lot cheaper. And that actually cascades to another problem, Cito. In other countries, you will notice, even in poor countries, even in, let's say, the big China, who was very poor before, they inculcated the attitude of planting among their people. So you can see that we used to have that gardening in schools, but aside from schools, gardening in your own backyard. So you would have a source of even malunggay, alubati, okra, squash, because these are easy to plant and easy to take care. But I don't know why the attitude of the recent generations has shifted them away to planting, which is actually a contributor to our problems on global food shortage. So in other countries, the poor people are very aggressive in planting. So probably an incentive or a push from especially in the local government units and the barangays should be in place. Because when one of the problems before was also parasitism, and that's why we started the school-based deworming program that actually takes every 6 months. That paved way for better nutrition, but that's already on during school age. And that only the intention of that is to take away parasites, worms that will be their competitor, the body's competitor in terms of nutrients. But the source of nutrients is another problem, because the global economic problems makes it difficult for ordinary or low or people in Filipinos in the low socioeconomic aspect to buy vegetables. No? Before malunggay, you only ask that from your neighbor.
Mhm.
Now, even I just came from the province, and I was surprised to see in the interior barangays, in the interior areas, that malunggay is already being sold. It simply shows that many people are not planting anymore, and the impact of climate change has contributed to the shortage of sources of nutrition and food products. The replacement is not there,
So,
or the incentive to replace is not there.
so how can we expect the Department of Health, even in partnership with UNICEF or with the United Nations, etc., or any other world body, how can we expect them to put an end to malnutrition in the Philippines if our government won't spend for water testing? All the lands available in semi-rural urban locations are being sold for housing projects and real estate properties. What can the DOH do?
DOH can actually push that we walk the talk, and solving malnutrition and stunting is not just a government's problem, but it should be a collaboration between our constituents, our people, and the government. So
Mhm.
DOH should not stop at signing with UNICEF. The biggest problem that they have is the actual implementation on the grounds. Because as we can see in not only in the Department of Health, I think that's part, I'm sorry to say, I don't want to be offensive, but it's actually part of government culture that the sense of urgency is not there. That's why in one of the programs, the Congress is spearheading together with the executive offices the Bagong Pilipinas Servicio Fair. It actually aims to bring down services direct to the people so that regional offices and government offices on the grounds will be more proactive. So in this case, with DOH signing with UNICEF, we really look forward that this will transcend down the line, especially on the grassroots level, because we don't want this to end up in meetings, coffee table books, signing, but then much of the budget, even in the Department of Health, a big chunk of the budget is spent on trainings, meetings, which are all sometimes redundant and repetitive. This budget can just be shifted to nutrition, the provision of goods, commodities, and needs of our people. Even water supply is also a project that the Department of Health can collaborate together with other government agencies.
Yeah, but Congresswoman Garin, I've been told by former Secretary of Health and other health experts have told me that even with the best intentions of the DOH, what ruined everything was the devolution, the local government code, the devolution of services, where what used to be the responsibility and the authority of the DOH had been devolved to provincial and local governments, and many of them have the responsibility, they have the funding, but they don't know the basics of running a health system, and which is why we are in this hellhole they call because of the devolution. Do you agree with that?
I somehow agree with that, Cito, and that's true. We have a lot of government programs, and during the implementation, it takes time for the Department of not all, no, but in to some extent, many of the LGUs, especially if there's a constant change in leadership, it takes time for the DOH people to convince the leaders of the importance of investing in health. Alam mo, the biggest problem that we have and the biggest dilemma that we have in terms of healthcare is that political leaders are sometimes pushed to invest in projects that are tangible. Kaya minsan, medical mission, or something that they can outrightly give outrightly to the people or to the children. because when they invest, let's say, in nutrition, it's something that's not immediately tangible, and they're thinking about the political impact. So there's a confusion, or let's say there's a hurdle, not a confusion. There's a hurdle between doing good governance or good programs and good politics, because most of the spending of local governments will be geared towards tangible projects. In fact, even in immunization, that's why in vaccination and immunization, not only in the Philippines, but many governments do not invest much, because the impact of that, the eradication of diseases, infectious diseases, will happen after several years.
Mhm.
And
No,
it's really time to renationalize health services.
okay, so having said that, what can you as a congresswoman, vice chair, etc., what can your contribution be? What can the House of Representatives contribute to this situation? Because we cannot have 95 kids dying every day. We cannot have 27 children out of 1,000 population not reaching their fifth birthday, and we cannot have. We're not only concerned about the height, that is reached by Filipinos, the average height, but also the intellect. We've discussed that time and again here on Agenda. We are very concerned that we're going to have dull or bobo Filipinos in the future, because their brains are underdeveloped and malnourished as well.
We have to push for the renationalization of health services. Second, there should be a strong collaboration between DOH, DSWD, and the Department of Agriculture, because there are a lot of programs that should be implemented to make couples, families participative in terms of providing nutritious food and planting in their backyard. Kasi pwede nga yan maski sa dingding, even in the wall, that can be done.
Mm.
And the oversight powers of Congress is something that we are exploring. In fact, we have started this way back. It's just that we were overtaken by budget plenary debates. And because this is actually one aspect where we can look at the utilization of funds. So, what is the role of the National Nutrition Council? Where are the funds of the department going to where it should go? How about the provision of potable and safe water? All of this should be looked into, and there should be a whole of government approach, because this is actually alarming for a country like the Philippines, who's exporting. Sad to say, I don't want to use the word, but it's actually what's happening. We have a lot of overseas Filipino workers contributing to the economy of other countries. But if our human resource back here in the Philippines are not being taken care of, especially in terms of nutrition, that will make them less competitive. And that will also affect the economy of our country. So if we go back, we have to push maybe incentives or whatever for barangays who are pushing for their people to plant in their own backyard. And then for governments who will invest in water, because government loans are actually available. And it should be implemented as a real project beset of corruption.
Mhm.
And aggressiveness, the sense of urgency of our national government agencies should also be there.
Congresswoman, we've had conversations with champions of immunization in the program. We've had several doctors, we've had foundation heads, and apparently the resistance to immunization and vaccines remain a big challenge. And yet no one has ever considered sitting down with the secretary of the DILG, Benar Abalos, and the DSWD, because we do give out money to indigent families, to poor families, and we were suggesting that there should be a convergence of the leaders to require that if you are going to receive this support, not only must you undergo prenatal care, not only must you send your kids to school, but they must all be fully immunized, and failure to do so disqualifies you, because it's the immunization, as you pointed out, that ensures that they manage to live and live long.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the greatest health tragedy that was allowed by the previous administration is vaccine hesitancy and the outflow of a lot of fake news regarding health, and hitting the confidence of the people in the Department of Health. So when that happened, it paved way for a very low immunization coverage. If it was not for COVID, then this would have not improved. We have a lot of deaths from measles, even diarrhea, and even Japanese encephalitis. And you are right. No, if in other countries, going to education is actually coupled with a mandatory vaccination, commensurate to what is needed by children. But of course, in the Philippines, that will be again misconstrued as something that is against their rights. But one thing that is happening in the Philippines that is not that extensive in other countries is the voice of the anti-vaxxers is very strong in the Philippines. And they are given a platform. We have other government agencies who are allowed to discreetly or indirectly promote anti-vaccine movement. So this is something that that is hitting the delivery of public health services. Because when outbreaks happen, like polio has been eradicated for several years, and it just took a few 1 or 2 years for polio to come back during the last administration, and that persists now. We have a lot of pocket cholera outbreaks happening all over the country, and nothing is being done about it. The investment in vaccination is not that high. The increase in the vaccination budget was during the time that there was during my time, there was actually a call for health equity, where vaccines that are available for the rich should also be made available to the poor. But then even HPV or cervical cancer vaccine, the coverage is not substantially increasing. Again, this is because it probably depends on the situation, but they allowing some government agencies to hamper immunization programs has huge economic impact.
Okay, now, so to wrap up our conversation, Congresswoman Garin, what would be your commitment, or what can we expect from you as far as this malnutrition thing is? I'm already hearing you talk about calling out the National Nutrition Council. What have you been doing? Where have you been spending the money? Because that's been on the mind of a number of journalists. It's like, isn't this supposed to be the concern of the Nutrition Council? And then this thing with the water, isn't that supposed to be part of the LUA or local water resource management group? So I expect that you're going to have hearings on this matter. What else can we expect from you to improve the nutrition or decrease the malnutrition issue?
Cito, I commit that I will be very vocal and persistent in pushing for the delivery of services to the grassroots level. Because the biggest dilemma that we have is, on most occasions, central offices or national governments would insist that they are just focused on policy direction and policy making, and implementation should be that of the LGUs. I don't believe in that. They have to go down and implement it together with the local government units, because the LGUs are not equipped with the capability and the necessary budget, while the national offices have the necessary budget and capability. So we have to push them to go down the grassroots and deliver for our people.
Will that require revisiting the implementing rules and regulations of the Local Government Code or the Devolution Act?
I don't think so. It's not. It's not. We don't need to visit. If it's renationalizing, then we have to amend the law. But if it's bringing down services to the grassroots level, then we don't need to revisit the law. We just need them to go down and work with the LGUs and reach the barangays.
Okay, because
Like,
that you,
come to think about it, Cito, we have a lot of funds for barangay health workers, but saan siya napupunta? We have a lot of funds for trainings, but it's a repetitive training with the participants mostly within national government officials. But what if we bring that budget down and we train parents in the grassroots level? We train them in areas where malnutrition is very high. We have capacity building down, not in hotels, but in communities. That will contribute a lot.
okay, well, Congresswoman Garin, Janette Garin, we have a lot to look forward to, and if you start the ball rolling, I have a feeling we'll be inviting you on a regular basis here on Agenda, because that all of that is on our whiteboard, and particularly renationalization of the health services. Thank you very much, Congresswoman. God bless you.
Thank you, Cito. God bless and take care always.
Okay, that's Congresswoman Janette Garin of Iloilo, and she has said quite a long list of things that have not been addressed by other people. I'm especially happy that she mentioned the need for testing water. Because mga kaibigan, especially all of you, our viewers and friends in the provinces, if you are getting your water from the deep well, and there are families who just simply rely on their deep well, even if they can afford having a service line from the water utilities, but please have your water checked. And if there are mayors, barangay captains, governors, and congressmen watching this program, please try to read up on E. coli in the water. It is not a simple question of having diarrhea. Long-term exposure to E. coli in the water, and maybe, Gab, we can feature that on the program in the future. It will ruin the lining of your intestines. It will kill all of your good bacteria, and then you will be susceptible to bacteria that is going to just continue to make you sicker by the day. I have seen this phenomenon personally 4 years running in our small farm in Lipa, until we discovered that we had 200% the acceptable level of E. coli, and we were forced to introduce 4-stage filtering using UV lights in our water tanks. Mabuti ng mabuti if you can afford all of that. Even if it's not that expensive, pero mahal pa rin po yun, and at the end of the day, it's your health. So what Congresswoman Garin said is important. We need to have water tested all over the country, and also maybe pass new laws that force private communities, also walled communities, to have filtered water if they won't allow connection with the local utilities. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, we continue our discussion about malnutrition and nutrition with one of our regular guests here, lifestyle doctor, and what can you do about malnutrition, and why are there cases where people are actually big, look healthy looking, but are malnourished? We'll be right back here on Agenda.
In a concerted effort to combat nutrition challenges across the country, the National Nutrition Council laid out a 5-year roadmap called the Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition. The PPAN is the country's 11th national plan against malnutrition since 1974. Health Secretary Ted Herbosa said that the government aims to correct the nutrition situation for the country's youth and citizens through the PPAN. The initiative focuses primarily on addressing all forms of malnutrition with particular attention to stunting and wasting, being overweight and obese, poor feeding practices, and micronutrient deficiencies. This comes as the country continues to have high levels of child stunting with 26.7% or 1 in every 4 children under 5 years old being shorter for their age. Can this 5-year roadmap address the nutrition issues among Filipino kids? Let's discuss that further on today's agenda. Dr. Dex Macalintal is a registered nutritionist-dietitian and a lifestyle medicine physician. He earned his degree in medicine from De La Salle Health Sciences. His specializations include lifestyle medicine, clinical nutrition, primary care, and obesity. In 2020, Dr. Macalintal topped the Diplomat Board examination in lifestyle medicine. Currently, he is the president and CEO of Lifestyle Med Manila, a medical group providing lifestyle medicine services.
Good morning, Doc Dex. Welcome
Yes, sir.
back.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we are still talking about malnutrition in the country, and I hope our viewers will remain patient and committed to joining us on this, because I don't know if you managed to catch the intro part of the program. It's shocking to find out that 95 kids die every day from malnutrition. 27 out of 1,000 don't reach their 5th birthday. And 1/3 of the total population of children are stunted or nabansot. Now, the bad thing here is, while people pay attention to the visible, they don't realize that stunting also happens in the brain.
Yes.
So, nabansot na, nabobo pa. Okay, so you being the lifestyle physician, you are into nutrition. What are your thoughts on this? Because, you know, the program has been there against malnutrition since 1974. But it's either we're now learning more or we've discovered we've been doing less.
Yes. So marami sir kasi na problema actually with health. So when we talk about health, there are also social determinants of health. This not only our healthcare our healthcare sector that is in this problem, but also sometimes ito ring ating mga tayo rin mga tao, tayo rin mga mamamayan, kinakailangan magkaroon din tayo ng sarili-sarili nating ambag. So we've heard Congresswoman Garin earlier on the show that she's talking about the involvement of our barangay health workers, of doing community gardens. But if the people won't be able to access this for a lot of reasons, say for example economic stability, their income, their employment, if they have more debts to cover, mas problema pa din po yon. So with social determinants of health, we have these factors like your economic stability, the neighborhood and the physical environment, the education even of our kababayans, the food that we are serving our families, the community, the community safety and social context, and of course our healthcare system. So it is isang masasabi natin dito sa Lipa, tawag namin dyan, masalimuot na problema dahil kung patuloy natin itong gagawin at walang gagawin na kasama ng ating mga kababayan at nagiging passive lamang tayo, mas nagiging problema. So tama yung sinabi ni Congresswoman Garin about establishing community gardens, but the community must also take its role. So dito pumapasok po yung community diagnosis and intervention. So kinakailangan mas maging self-reliant ang bawat komunidad, hindi lamang nakaasa sa gobyerno na ito sinimulan ng gobyerno, pero kinakailangan yung mga pasyente natin o yung ating mga kababayan din, gumagawa din sila ng ambag nila doon sa, say for example, kung community garden man yan, sila din mismo nag-aambag doon para magkaroon tayo ng mas maraming vitamins and minerals sa ating plato.
Noon, I remember back in the 70s, the Nutrition Council, the First Lady, Melda Marcos, they launched the Nutriban. It was supposed to be a highly nutritious, vitamin-packed bread. And if I'm not mistaken, it was given for free in schools and it was sold cheaply to address malnutrition. Recently, a few months back, I had lunch with Ramon Ang of San Miguel and we were talking poultry. And he casually mentioned, saying, if every Filipino child could be given 1 egg a day, we wouldn't have as much of a problem with malnutrition as we do now. And then Congresswoman Garin pointed out that, Cito, even if we took care of the child, if the mother did not take care of herself, hindi niya yung ina, hindi inalagaan yung sarili niya no nagdadalang tao siya, may tama na kagad yung bata. And there is also the issue that Congresswoman Garin raised regarding teenage pregnancy. That's the second time I heard that problem this week alongside 15-year-olds getting AIDS. There's an increase of AIDS, HIV among teenagers. So, patong-patong yung problema. If you were to be asked by government, so Doc Dex, what contributions or suggestions would you make to address this problem?
Number one is education. No? So sabi nga natin, ang problema natin ay maraming problema tayo na mali yung impormasyon na nababasa ng mga tao. So saan ba sila nandoon? Ang mga tao, they are not really just on paper, they're just not really on the streets, they're also on social media. The problem of social media management then and yung ating mga problema sa misinformation, mas nagkakaroon ng effect in the long run. Say for example, teenage pregnancy. We talk about teenage pregnancy, HIV and STIs because of all of the problems that are being posted on social media. Say for example, naririyan yung mga misinformation na kailangan ito na lamang yung kainin mo, no? At nagpapababa ito ng resistensya ng mga kababayan natin. Also, yun din yung problema na not only of teenage pregnancy, but if the mother does not take care of herself and even yung ating mga kapwa lalaki hindi rin naaalagaan ng maayos, hindi nakakapag-provide ng maayos, problema din yun. So one suggestion is to clean social media of misinformation. Yung kinakailangan magkaroon tayo ng trust that this misinformation on social media wherein ang daming mga tao ang naririto, we also have to be there. Tayo rin mismo, kami rin mga professional, mga doktor, kinakailangan naroon tayo. And the misinformation that are being told by some groups na hindi naman tama talaga yung sinasabi. Say for example, we've seen people na kumain ka ng ganito, maganda ito para sa iyo sapagkat nakita sa pag-aaral na nakapagpapababa ito ng creatinine clearance at nakapagpapataas ng creatinine, ay maganda to sa bato mo. Sa unang pakinig, magandang pakinggan, pero sa katotohanan, kabaliktaran yung sinasabi nung nagsasalita. So, yung mga tao, maniniwala doon, at kapag nasira yung bato nila, nasira yung iba pa nilang katawan, bumaba ang resistensya nila, in the long run, kapag ito ay naging isang ina, maaari makapagpasa ng mga sakit sa kanyang mga supling. That's why misinformation on social media is very, very rampant, and we have to be there. That's the first suggestion that we can.
Listening to what you're saying, it just struck me that what Janette Garin mentioned, Congresswoman Garin mentioned about the water. The need to test water,
Yes.
and I know that from my personal experience. And then I just realized now na, teka, kung yung mga manok namin namamatay dahil sa E. coli, what are the chances that all of these boys and girls who keep getting multiple infection or reinfection of UTI, what are the chances that it's also in the water?
Yes.
So,
Isa pa rin yun. So, kinakailangan din, matest talaga po natin yung mga tubig natin. May mga sanidad tayo, naririyan ang ating sanidad. Sana yung ding mga kumpanya talaga nagko-comply ng testing. And sila din mismo is submit themselves to testing their waters, because all of these pupunta yan sa mga sewers natin, at ito kapag hindi tama magkakaroon din ng problema in the long run. Also, yung drinking water din sa kumpanya na binibili man o nadodoon din sa mga gripo nila o sa kung saan man na ginagamit nila sa kanilang kumpanya, kinakailangan din talaga natin matest, because if not on social media, ang mga tao nasa kumpanya, and if their food right there is not that healthy, maaari din tayo magkaproblema sa mga bata na inaalagaan natin. O yung mga magiging ina na buntis na pala, hindi din nila alam na buntis na pala sila, maaari ding magkaroon ng problema.
So, ang nagiging problema ay maraming sumisikat na social media influencers or mga posts or podcast na puro politika, but they are not doing their share for healthcare, nutrition, etc. So you said clean up social media. There should be a more active role in the kasi di ba meron tayo mga fact checkers.
Yes.
Pero hindi naman proactive yung shutdown ng mga marites at mga disinformation on health, because they tend to focus on political disinformation but not on
health
which is more important.
Yes.
Now,
because
okay,
all of these would affect the future generation. At ito na nga, marami na ngang namamatay at marami na ngang mga nagkakaroon ng problema sa kanilang kalusugan kapag naririyan na yung maling impormasyon na idinudulot. Kunyari, nabasa nung nanay nila, ito pala dapat mong kainin, anak. Okay lang pala na kumain ka na ng damakmak na asukal, okay lang pala na puro taba na yung kainin natin. Sige, ito na lamang, ito processed, pakain ko na lang ito sa'yo ng pakain. So, kaya nagkakaroon ng problema. So that's an issue that we also have to address.
Okay, so now you're the lifestyle physician, and napansin ko lang that I noticed that even in the government, we don't have programs like in Japan or Singapore or in certain countries where they promote healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
Kumbaga, paano ba yung they promote exercise, nutrition, social interaction, religious or faith beliefs, etc. I'm sure you've watched the Live to 100, the Blue Zones, and it's interesting. Why is it that in the Philippines hindi ginagawa, hindi uso, and hindi pinopromote yung healthy lifestyle that you promote?
Maybe because hindi kasi talaga proactive ang mga tao dito sa atin. That's number one. Number two, hindi pa nila naiintindihan yung burden ng malnutrition. Kasi pagka sinabi mo usually malnutrition, inisipan lang po nila, hindi, payat lang yan eh. Pero sa katotohanan, minsan kahit yung mga malalaking tao, minsan nagkakaroon din sila ng malnutrition. Minsan hindi rin tama yung vitamins and minerals intake nila. That's why nasa sideline kumbaga. Hindi, kailangan lang natin patabain tong batang to. Kailangan lang natin tong bigyan ng mas maraming pagkain, ganyan. Pero what kind of food are we giving them? That's why hindi laging ang sinasabi, we are actually living too short and dying too long. That's why kinakailangan magkaroon talaga tayo ng proactive role sa ating healthcare. So number one, kinakailangan yung ating pagkain, mas marami pong gulay, dagdagan natin ng gulay ang mga kinakain natin. Nakita po sa mga pag-aaral that the average need of Filipinos to increase their vegetable intake is to have at least 3 to 4 cups in a day. Pero sa katotohanan, ang nakakain lamang ng mga Pilipino sa surveys natin is 1 to 2 cups per day at the most. So, kaya bagsak na bagsak ang kalidad ng nutrisyon sa atin. Kaya ang kinakailangan, tama ngang impormasyon na ito yung dapat ay nagdadagdag tayo ng pagkain. So, just adding 1 or 2 more cups in a day ng gulay at bawasan yung mga masyadong processed na pagkain would matter a lot Pangalawa, physical activity natin, kinakailangan talaga natin ng 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. The problem actually is sometimes yung mga Pilipino, ang daming rason na hindi, nasa kumpanya kasi ako, nakaupo lang ako dito, hindi ako nakakapag-exercise. But kapag ka naman tiningnan natin yung lifestyle nila, no, when I do talks with companies, lagi sinasabi, hindi, wala po talagang oras eh. And then we can reverse that by saying, kung wala ka talagang oras, no, kung wala talaga kayong oras, bakit kayo narito? Pangalawa, kung wala talaga tayong oras, pero may oras kayong mag-social media, ang na-exercise lang natin yung thumbs natin. If we can do 1 minute of exercise every 20 minutes of our work, we can not only increase our productivity kasi mag-i-increase yung ating blood circulation, we can also have an increase in our physical activity. Just a simple sit and stand, just a simple modified jacks, and then a simple arm stretching for 1 full minute can increase your physical activity. So hindi rason na wala po akong oras, wala po tayong siguro ang problema ay wala tayong motibasyon na gawin yung ating.
So you mentioned Doc Dex that naimbita ka to do talks regarding healthy lifestyle. How do they get in touch with you, and what do you usually, quickly 1 minute na lang tayo, how do they get in touch with you? What topics do you cover?
I cover I cover almost all topics related to nutrition, to lifestyle, to health, even yung iba pang mga sakit, diabetes, high blood, even ubo, TB, mga ganyan. Lahat tinitingnan natin because this is also mandated by DOLE. So they can just send us an email. It's at bookings.drdex@gmail.com, and then that's it.
Can you repeat that slowly?
That's bookings.drdex@gmail.com.
Okay, well, that about covers it, Doc Dex, but I'm sure you will be back here on Agenda because like you, we also want to promote the healthy lifestyle agenda para hindi na masyadong pumupunta sa ospital at matagal bago pumunta sa punerarya.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Anytime.
Doc Dex Macalintal.
Anytime, sir.
Okay, let's now go to our declaration or our reminder for the week. And it goes, honesty has a power that very few people can handle. But at the end of the day, we need to be honest, we need to be truthful, and the first person you need to be honest to is yourself. Have a great weekend. God bless all of you. Please include Team Agenda in your prayers, and please keep it here on One News.